We talked about overhead. There's a traditional overhead allocation, which says basically you have to determine a reasonable way to allocate your overhead. And if you can argue it's reasonable, fine. Or you can just take roughly 55% of your R&D wages, whatever your R&D wages are deemed to be, plus all those adjustments we have for specified, non-specified employees, limits, bonuses, etc. But basically, that's your final number. So most people tend to use the proxy method. The one thing about it is, can anyone think of a situation where you probably wouldn't use the proxy method? I'll say that most people use it because the CRA will tell you that they have different risk criteria. Risk criteria means that they're going to come and do a site visit. And one of their main ones for a financial review is you didn't use the proxy method. You used traditional. That's very likely to get you a site visit by the financial reviewer. So people who don't like site visits often say, you know what, for that little extra money, nah, we'd rather have less money and just do our own thing than have to entertain the CRA financial reviewer for half a day or a day on an issue like that. Okay, so so weigh that out. Okay, so as we said, the salary base is roughly the proxy amount is 55% of the salary base for years after 2014. Excludes benefits, bonuses, benefits and bonuses basically. We talked about the limits for a specified employee as well, so they have limits not only on the wages they can claim, but also on the salary amount for the proxy cap. And basically the proxy amount covers overheads such as office supplies, office equipment, water, electricity, phones, support salary, travel, training, property taxes, all your kind of overheads that you would think to run a factory or a plant or a lab. Okay? And then if you don't use proxy, you just have to do some reasonable allocation. It could be based on square footage, it could be based on man hours, it could be based on any number of things, but you have to argue it's reasonable in that case. And that's where the fun starts. I find that I get engaged sometimes by large companies who like to play that game because they've got everything else pretty tight. And that can be interesting, it can be lucrative too. But yeah, you really want to have a stomach for, those are the guys who like sitting with a CRA for half a day and arguing and pulling out the act and whatever, right? Okay, and there's certain limits. Basically, when you claim the proxy amount, there's a limit that says, let's say I have $400,000 of R&D wages and $100,000 of other overheads. So you'd say, well, $400,000 times 55%, I should get $230,000 of proxy. But if my actual overheads are less than 230, in this case they're only 100, I can never claim more than I actually spent. Okay? So the proxy cap says, if the proxy amount is more than I actually spent, I got to pull those amounts out, or I got to reduce that amount. Okay? There's also, to complicate it, and I won't get into this, the form itself, Schedule 1 of the tax return, and accountants get confused by this. They tax you on provincial credits the year that they're earned, and they tax you on the federal credit the year after it's used. So there's a timing difference on the taxation of the types of credits. Not only that, they tax you on the proxy portion of the provincial credits the year after they're used. So they tax you on the non-proxy portion of the provincial credits the year they're earned, and then the balance the year after. If you understand what they're doing, it's just a calculation that the form does automatically, but it really does confuse a lot of people, okay? Especially the first time through.